Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to this new episode of Taliesin Talks. You might not have seen a Taliesin Talks on this channel before, and that's fair enough, because in the 18 or 19 months that we've been running this channel, this is the, and I counted, third ever episode of Taliesin Talks. So just think, when this is all over, you can tell your kids or your grandkids, I was there. Episode 3. I saw it with my face, it definitely happened, and they probably won't believe you. But you'll know. You'll know. And it's called Taliesin Talks because I, Taliesin, that is my name, will be sitting in front of this camera and this microphone holding this mug of coffee. Now this might change to wine or gin as the video goes on. Let's see how stressful it gets, who knows. And I will be talking about a subject in World of Warcraft. And when I say talking, we are going to deep dive. I am freestyling, we are improvising, and we are going to crack this nut and get to the bottom of this subject. So this is not the weekly reset. That will be coming Friday night, Saturday morning, as it always does. Boom, looking forward to that. This is not one of those videos we do with all the really fast editing and the jokes and the memes. Basically, there's not going to be much to look at in this video. Except, of course, for this picture of Ian Hazakostas riding a unicorn fighting a T-Rex, because come on, I wouldn't let you starve, would I? But what I mean is, from now on, there's not going to be much to look at in this video. I'm going to put on some random footage, maybe me being really awesome in a high Mythic plus, something like that. So there is going to be something to watch as this video goes along, but otherwise it's just going to be that and my face. So you can have it on in the background and you can just listen, or you can put it full screen and spend the entire time watching my face, whatever you're more comfortable with. And the subject that we are going to be talking about today is Blizzcon 2017 and the impending, inevitable World of Warcraft announcements. And on the assumption that there is going to be a new expansion reveal, which I think is a fair assumption, I want to set in stone in this video what my predictions for the announcements and the new expansion are going to be. Because obviously over the last couple of months, we've been doing videos, speculation videos with ideas and thoughts about the story and the characters and what systems might carry on or be discarded after Legion going into the next expansion. Because speculation is fun. I know not all of you think that. I know lots of you think the absolute opposite of that. So again, if you are the kind of person that in the comments to these sort of videos, these speculation videos, likes to write things like, oh my god, he's talking about something that hasn't even happened yet. This is such total clickbait, man. Clickbait. If that's you, don't be a dick. Probably don't watch this video. You're not going to like it. Because I like talking about what I think is going to happen in World of Warcraft. Because I really like World of Warcraft. And talking about it is fun and exciting, right? In the same way that when I'm going to a football game with my mates on a Saturday, I sit in the back of the car and I say, God, who do you think is going to be the captain today? Do you think it'll be Leon Britton? Do you think we'll play 4-4-2? What signings do you think we can get in January? Do you think we score lots of goals? My friends don't then turn around and go, Taliesin, you're talking about something that hasn't even happened yet? That is total clickbait, mate. We're going to sit here in silence and we are not going to talk about the game until it happens. And then we'll talk about it. Anything else is just clickbait. It's clickbait. That doesn't happen. We are all fans of World of Warcraft on this channel, I imagine, and we are all excited about what is going to be announced. None more so than me and Evitel, because it has to be said, we are going to be there at BlizzCon 2017. And full disclosure, Blizzard are taking us over there. They are flying us over there. They've got us a nice little hotel, I think, and we are going to be there with our press passes, official BlizzCon press passes. Boom. In the Anaheim Convention Center, and we will be as close to the front as we can possibly get for that World of Warcraft announcement, and we are going to photobomb every single official looking camera that we can possibly find, and we will get our faces onto your virtual ticket live stream, and then after the announcement we're going to run back to wherever our hotel is, hopefully it's quite close, and we will record videos and reactions and reports, and we will be doing so throughout the convention. So looking forward to that. But what are those announcements going to be? Well, I got some thoughts. Let's talk about it with Taliesin Talks, okay? Go, 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 go. So first of all, on the subject of there being an expansion announcement at all at BlizzCon, I have to just preface this by saying that thinking about this video for the last couple of days and thinking about what I thought my predictions were, I've suddenly got really paranoid. I've got really paranoid that perhaps there won't actually be an expansion announcement at all. Because that is entirely possible. Ian hasn't actually said that there'll be an expansion reveal. I mean, I know he's essentially said that in that video where he was talking to camera and saying, oh, I can't wait to tell you all about what's coming next. But we know there is stuff coming next that hasn't yet been revealed that isn't a new expansion. And I know we all take that to mean that there's going to be an expansion, but we don't 100% explicitly know, do we? And I think it's fair to say that if there isn't, there will be an absolute riot, and Ian's beautiful, lovely, knowledgeable head will end up on a spike somewhere in the Anaheim Convention Centre. But it's still possible, because let's not forget, we have on the PTR at the moment 7.2.3, which we're going to talk about right now. So again, if you're the kind of person that doesn't want this spoiled, don't be a dick. Go and watch something else. Watch one of our other videos that you haven't seen yet. There are plenty of them, I'm sure. 7.3.2 is not set in Argus. It's set directly after the events of the Antorus raid, when Sargeras has been imprisoned within the Pantheon with the rest of the revived Titans. Now, the exact details of that how that happens haven't sort of been revealed yet, but there are some pretty safe guesses. We know that before that happens, Sargeras plunges his sword into Sylithus, into Azeroth itself. We know that because it was given away on the Blizzard gear store for their new BlizzCon t-shirt, the Sargeras t-shirt. In the description of that, it literally described that happening when the t-shirt was first put on there. They have since changed that, I've noticed. So if you go on there now, it will just say something like, Sargeras is really big and bad. But before, it literally just said, Sargeras plunges his sword into the face of Azeroth, which just gives it away completely. But it's not hard to guess, because if you look at the pictures from the PTR, it is clearly a sword wound right in the middle of Sylithus. Now, nothing has been said officially about this, but it is in the 7.3.2 PTR. And I don't think this has got anything to do with an expansion. I think this is maybe going into the next expansion, but I don't even think this is a pre-patch. I think this is a mini-raid. Blizzard haven't denied that there is going to be another small-scale raid like the Trial of Valor after Antorus, and I think this is it. I think that all the Old God stuff happening around there, we're going to have to go into Sylithus and use all of those lovely pre-existing art assets and go down there and sort out some shit. I think it's going to be like a 3-4 boss raid, and that is going to help set the scene for the next expansion. That's what I think that stuff is. And that somehow is going to have to be announced at BlizzCon. So before we even get to any talk of next expansions, that is what Ian is going to have to address. So we're going to be sitting there, we're going to be really excited about this new expansion reveal, a new cinematic maybe, certainly like some footage of new zones, and playable races maybe, things like that. But before we get to any of that, Ian is going to have to announce this other patch, 7.3.2, maybe 3.5, maybe 7.4, they'll call it. Who knows? But that's what he's going to have to do. And we are going to be sitting there going, yep, seen it on the PTR, yeah, really excited about it. Oh, mini-raid, fantastic, can't wait. That's going to be really, really exciting. What about the new expansion? And you know what Ian's going to do. Because this is what Ian does. Because don't forget, Ian is the Columbo of Blizzard. Ian's going to be like, and that's what we're going to do. It's going to be like this and that and that. It's really exciting. And he's going to let us think that's it. And he's going to let us stew in our own juices, getting really nervous, going, but the new expansion, Ian. Tell us about the new expansion. And then he's going to be all like, oh yeah, there's one last thing. New expansion. And then we're going to get all that new expansion stuff. And that's what that's what I imagine will happen. But in the last few days, I've been really, really paranoid. What if there is no new expansion? What if this announcement about this cool mini-raid, and if it even is a mini-raid, I'm assuming it is, I think it's a pretty safe bet, and this kind of, like, after Antorus storyline that will be happening, which will probably involve some kind of old god influence or something like that. What if that's it? Because that is pretty exciting. I mean, you saw how excited everyone got when those pictures of the PTR were put up there with the wound in Sylithus. We know that the entire landscape is going to be changed because you can talk to Chromie and you can get it put back again the way it was before the wound was put in Sylithus, like you can in the Blasted Lands with the portal going to Draenor and stuff. You can talk to an NPC there and you can get it all put back to how it was before Warlords of Draenor changed it all up. So we know it's going to be a massive difference. And what if that is it? And you're all going to say I'm really stupid, but I am just really, really scared about that. But assuming that is the case, assuming that after talking about Sylithus and the Mini-Raid and the build-up to the next expansion, assuming that there is actually an expansion reveal at BlizzCon, oh god, please, assuming that is all the case, assuming that Ian Hazzikostas pretends to walk off stage and then turns around and goes, if that's what happens before the new expansion, what happens next? And that is my best. You probably thought that was Ian Hazzikostas talking right there, but it wasn't. It was me doing an impression. Don't be fooled. It wasn't him. Assuming that happens and that there is an expansion reveal and that after talking about Sylithus for, hopefully no more than about 5-10 minutes, we go into talk of the next expansion and what's happening next, and that expansion reveal trailer plays to a hushed auditorium who will then go absolutely wild with new features, a new setting, a new story. What are my predictions as to that next expansion? Well, I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad you made it this far, because I have a number of predictions. Prediction number 1, which will be a surprise to absolutely no one, Jaina. Jaina will be a massive, massive part of this expansion, and I don't think that's a controversial view. I think the fact that Blizzard have put her all over the key art for BlizzCon under the Warcraft banner, the fact that they have been teasing her so much in other games up to this point, it's a cast iron guarantee that Jaina will be a big part of the next expansion. But what kind of part will she play? Well, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to say, as we've said in videos before, that Jaina is going to be a massive, massive protagonist in the new expansion, as in she is going to be a good guy. I know loads of people think that there's the meme that she's a dreadlord, or that she's a baddie, or that she's psycho against the Horde. I think this expansion is going to be all about her and her journey and her redemption and her essentially being the hero that Azeroth needs at this time. She's one of the all-time great characters in Warcraft, let alone World of Warcraft. She's been there throughout. She's just brilliant. She's amazing. I love her. I love her tiny little belly button. I love everything about her. And I think Blizzard do too. And I think one of the major clues as to the kind of part that she's going to take in the next expansion is the way that Blizzard have been totally trolling us. Absolutely trolling us with baddie images of Jaina recently. In Hearthstone, we had the Lich King Jaina. In Heroes of the Storm, we've had the Dreadlord Jaina. These two memes, these two theories as to how Jaina could be evil, sort of made reality by Blizzard in their previous 2 games. If you think that's accidental, obviously it's not. If you think that hasn't got anything to do with this next Warcraft expansion, you are completely wrong. That is a blatant troll from Blizzard. They are toying with us. They are laughing at us. They're trying to get us talking about Jaina and getting excited about Jaina. So when they have this big reveal and she's the goodie and she's the hero, it's going to be extra awesome. That's exactly what's going to happen. So that's prediction 1. Jaina is a massive part of next expansion. Prediction number 2, and again, this will come as no surprises to anyone, the theme of the expansion. I predict that the theme and the setting will be, at last, the long-awaited South Seas expansion. I know there is loads and loads of talk of the Void, and of the Light and the Shadow, and the Void Lords. And I think we will get to that. And I think we will get to that towards the end of the expansion, as Blizzard is wont to do with various things. But I think this expansion will finally be that exploration, kind of traveling to different islands, seeing these islands that we've never seen before. Now, there's obvious evidence to this as well, because I made this exact same prediction before Legion was announced, by the way, at Gamescom 2015. I said, I think it's time for that South Seas expansion now. But that was based pretty much entirely on my own desire for a South Seas expansion. It was based entirely on want and not on any kind of evidence at all. This time, there is some hard and fast evidence that the South Seas expansion is coming up. One is the fact that Jaina is going to be a massive part of it, and the Kul'tiran armor sets that have been sort of data mined I was about to say leaked. Obviously, they haven't been leaked. Obviously, it's part of the hype machine. Blizzard puts these things in there for us to find. Spoilers are really good hype. That's a scientific fact. Spoilers actually get people more excited about things than turn people off things. So putting in very carefully placed spoilers and leaks here and there from Blizzard is a genuine marketing strategy. I think we can all accept that at this stage. So those Kul'tiran armor sets, which are clearly leveling sets for the new expansion. They're not part of the pre-expansion, the Sylithus stuff, because, we're not going to Kul'tiras in that. So this is new expansion right there. So straight off the bat, it's pretty much certain, unless this is part of the biggest cover-up in World of Warcraft history, if this is like the biggest troll in Warcraft's history, and Ian's going to turn around and go, oh yeah, you found those Kul'tiran armor sets, you found Jaina, you found Sylithus? Bullshit, none of that is happening. If I was a developer, that's exactly what I do. But I think Ian knows that the Anaheim Convention Center would literally be burned to the ground if they tried that. So I think in this case, that's just too extreme. It's not a troll. Kul'tiras. We'll be going to Kul'tiras, and that opens the way for that South Seas adventure. Other clues, there have been pirates everywhere in Legion, including vampire pirates, okay? They are pushing the pirate boat out. We have a new pirate Pepe on the store. What other clues do you need? We will be going to Kul'tiras. The new mounts that you get for the Blizzard virtual ticket are the Flying Alliance ship and the Flying Horde airship as well. It's so clear, surely, that we'll be going to the South Seas. That's my prediction number 2. But why will we be going to the South Seas? What will we be doing? Will we be going to just Kul'tiras, or will we be spreading out to Zandalar and, that island with the bananas on it and the Undermine? The answer is yes, we will. And that is because of prediction number 3, the story. Now, there's lots of things that I predict in the coming story. I predict that we will eventually get to some light and void stuff with Alleria and Taliesin and Arator. That has to happen. But I think that's long game. I think there is going to be big focus on the Windrunner sisters, all 3 of them. I think they're going to be a major part of the story, yes, but, and this isn't the title of the expansion that I'm guessing at here, but this is like the overall theme. After Sylithus, and after Azeroth has been stirred by Sylithus and by the sword plunging into Sylithus and us having to sort out all those beautiful pre-existing art assets in that mini-raid, I think Azshara thinks now is time to make her move. While we are in chaos, half of our forces are still in Argos. We just fought the biggest threat we've ever had to face head on. We then get back to Azeroth and we're all fighting to stop this old god thing happening in Sylithus, and that sort of awakens old god influence around Azeroth. Now is the time that Queen Azshara makes her move, and we are talking Naga invasions. We are talking a pre-patch event of all of the old world coastal areas having Naga invasions sweeping out of the sea that we have to repel in our pre-patch thing. And that might even carry on through to the end game as well, where we have sort of old world scaling, which we'll come to later, where Naga invasions coming out of the sea, which we have to repel. It will be Naga invasions. Queen Azshara will be the major baddie. And that will be the main thrust of the storyline, just like the Broken Isles was the main initial thrust of the storyline on Legion. And the story will be this. After we defeat the threat in Sylithus, Jaina approaches us as the Alliance and takes us to Kul'tiras to clear the Naga invasion there. Horde players will have a different starting area, and they will head to Zandalar, where there is some major kind of troll leadership battles going on, and the Horde senses their opportunity to get the Zandalari trolls on board finally as well. So they go there and clear the Naga invasion from that area, and then both factions use those 2 areas as their kind of hopping off points, like Shadow Moon and Frostfire in Warlords of Draenor. But why? Well, to repel these Naga invasions, which are old god influenced, and there is this vague spectre of old god influence starting to creep into the old world as well, we need to get 5 items, which sound quite a lot like the 5 pillars of creation, but definitely are not the 5 pillars of creation. They're something completely different. They are the magical sticks of old god Naga repulsion magicness. Khadgar knows about them. Jaina knows where to find them, as do certain trolls on the Horde side as well. So our mission in this opening part of the expansion, the part of the expansion which will give it its initial theme, is to sail round the South Seas and the various islands there, and recover these 5 magic sticks of Legion and Naga repulsion. And guess who's got the last one? Queen Azshara in her underwater kingdom, which will be maybe the first or more likely second raid. And this is the thing, I think Queen Azshara is going to take the kind of the Gul'dan role in this expansion. Much as I would love to see Queen Azshara be the overall big baddie of an expansion, I think Blizzard can go the way of kind of using her as the kind of baddie that oversees everything up until about halfway or 2/3 of the way through the expansion, and then when we take her out, that's when the old god madness starts to happen. That's when N'Zoth properly comes to the fore, and that's when our first glimpses of the actual real life Void Lords start to kind of come and take over and step in and go, okay, old gods, you are starting to fail here, bring on the Void. That's what we're going to do. That's what I think. I think it will be, that opening part of the expansion will be very Azshara focused. I think it'll be very South Seas focused. And I think we will have, prediction number 4, faction ships, whereby we travel around to these different islands and have our adventures using the same kind of technology that we're using on the Vindicar at the moment, because I think it's absolutely ridiculous to think that we won't, that Vindicar technology isn't a test for something else. And I think that test is our faction ships, because also part of this prediction, I think a major part of this next expansion will be faction warfare. I think the Horde Alliance battle is going to come right back to the fore on this one and become a major thing. Why do I think that? Particularly because in a previous video, not long ago, in fact, our last video, it was all about the idea of the light and the shadow being 2 new factions in World of Warcraft. And that was just like that was spitballing. That was just putting an idea out there, talking it through, see how it worked. And there's loads of things I really like about that idea. I like the fact that, you know, you'd have gnomes being able to team up with trolls to dungeon and raid with, just because they're part of the same light or dark faction. I really love that. I really love the idea of void paladins, if it came down to it as well. People were sort of saying in the comments, how could that possibly work? Because you'd have void paladins. And I'm like, are you telling me Void Paladins doesn't sound cool? You've just said like a really cool 2 words there, and you expect me to think that's a bad thing? Void Paladins sound amazing. If you can have a Dreadlord in Lothraxion, who is now a member of the Light, if you can have a Light Dreadlord, then you can have a Void Paladin, okay? And both of those things are really cool. There was also the point that people were bringing up that, you know, having those 2 factions would split up guilds and things like that, because guilds would all have to be in the same faction, which they kind of are now. But that doesn't matter. I'm not going to have that argument now. As it happens, thinking it through a little bit more, I agree. And I think that if the Light and Void factions were to become a part of it, it'd be much more kind of like in Burning Crusade, the Scryers and the Aldor. That would all be a reputation that you'd work towards rather than an actual faction that you would join, like Horde or Alliance. And also, just because I really want there to be more Horde and Alliance stuff, one of my favourite expansions, just thematically, was Mists of Pandaria. And one of the things I loved about Mists of Pandaria was the agency that we as players had on the things that were happening around us. Every other expansion, with the exception maybe of Vanilla, which is an expansion, there is a big world-ending threat that we all have to fight towards, and at some point we will have to team up and beat this world-ending threat. And it always feels like we're fighting for our lives. Whereas with Mists of Pandaria, most of the bad stuff that happened in that expansion was our fault, and it was caused by the Horde and Alliance battle, and I love the agency that gave us. And people talk about Mists of Pandaria being like a chilled out expansion, which is all about sort of exploration and experiencing this new culture. I'd love to see that now in this new expansion, at least for the first 2/3 or half of it. I'd love to go back to that Mist thing of just discovering new places, like Kul'tiras, which, by the way, I think would be really windswept. It wouldn't be like this paradise. I think it'd be taken over by Naga, or like there'd be like the stragglers of the humans there fighting back the Naga. But I think it'd be real like that faction in Game of Thrones, the seafaring faction there. It'd be really sort of wooden and very metal and very windswept and very kind of barnacled and harsh and big beards and sort of salty sea dogs and things like that. And then you have Zandalar, which is like your typical Amazonian type feel, kind of stranglethorn thing. So you have that as well. Then you've got your amazing island with all the bananas on. We need that island. I forget his name right now. And all these other islands as well. So there's an idea of exploring and gathering resources, which I think at this point we kind of deserve and we've kind of earned, you know, and it can all get really serious later on when we actually have to face up to Azshara and sort of steal the magic stick of old god repulsion that she's got there, the 5th one that we need, which is definitely not the Pillar of Creation. All of that's all great, but just that opening of sailing around in our faction ships, see that happen. So prediction number 4 is faction ships and a new major focus on the Horde and Alliance battle. Prediction number 5, a new playable race. As we have said in a previous video on this subject, I believe it is time for us to have a new race. It's been, now 3 expansions since our last new playable race with pandas. And I think it's just about time. I think generally playable races are easier to put into the game, or if not easier to put in the game, than new classes, certainly easier to maintain. Because you put a new class into the game, you have to give it specs, 2 or 3 specs. You have to rebalance everything around those new specs, and it just puts an extra 3 things to balance in what is already 36 specs to balance over the course of an expansion. And it's a lot of work. And yeah, putting a new playable race is a lot of work as well. New starting area, new models, new customization options. But I think overall, it's probably less work than a new class. So I don't think we'll see a new class this expansion. So all those ideas people are having about tinkers or bards or those other things you hear all the time, I think that is completely out. If there were to be a new race, you see, my heart says Naga and Tuskar. That's what my heart says. I know it's pretty much certain that wouldn't happen. But that's what my heart says. My heart says Naga, and I would love that to happen so much, because why not? If we had Death Knights fighting on our side in Wrath of the Lich King against the Lich King and his Death Knights, there's no reason at all why we can't have Naga fighting on our side against a Naga invasion and Queen Azshara. We already have Naga on our side from the Demon Hunter Order Hall missions and things like that. There are already Naga who are part of the Illidari. They could be Demon Hunters. Why not? So I think thematically and lore-wise, there's nothing wrong with it at all. There is just that model issue, isn't there? The fact that they don't have feet. And that is a major issue. That's a genuine major issue, and I understand that. And that's why I think in my heart of hearts, it wouldn't happen. And I know that Tuskar are supposed to die if they leave cold climates, but at the same time, we've seen them in warm climates, because there's one in the Rogue Order Hall, and he's doing absolutely fine. So that's okay too. I don't think either of those things are going to happen. What I think will happen, and this is my prediction number 5, sub-races. We know, when the subject has been brought up before, that devs has said, yeah, sub-races is something that sounds really, really cool. We'd like to try and make that happen. We know that last year when they were asked at the Q&A, they said, you know what? That's something we've had some brilliant ideas with, and we are very close to making it happen. Well, this is a year later, folks. It's time for new expansion. I think it's time we get sub-races. I think this is genuinely going to happen. I think we are going to have more customization options, and this is something we're going to get to in one of the further predictions, but I think those customization options will include sub-races, and I'm talking Wild Hammers or Dark Iron Dwarves for dwarf characters, maybe like little mini Vrykul for humans, a High Elf option for Night Elves, a Nightborn option for Blood Elves, all these kind of things. A Night Elf option for Worgen, other race options for Seiken, new goblin models. Oh no, what are the cool goblins that have like the gills? Gill goblins! Gill goblins, all these incredible things. Oh, and uncorrupted orcs, obviously, which is what I want. Sort of brown and sort of maybe even slightly reddish skinned orcs, which would be absolutely awesome. And while we're at it, Broken Kroken for Draenei. Or Eridar, why not? Red-skinned Eridar. Awesome. I genuinely think this is going to be a thing that is going to happen, and that'll be kind of instead of our new playable race. Now, obviously, there are issues introducing those new sort of sub-races into the game. Don't know how they do that, whether they'd sort of have starting areas for them, which would be a bit weird, or whether we're just going to kind of make up some excuse and they're all in there. Who knows? But that is my prediction. Sub-races instead of a new playable race. But if there are new playable races, Naga or Tuskar. Or Ethereals, because Ethereals is the really obvious one, isn't it, for new playable races. But I think we're going to hold off that for the time being. I think Ethereals is something which can come later. Later on in the expansion is where we're going to get our real kind of Void and Old God and Ethereal focused stuff. I think that's going to come later. That's the prediction I'm making. And I don't think having Ethereals as a playable race would fit in with the South Seas expansion that I'm predicting here. So that's why I'm not touching on that so much. I think if any of these predictions are completely wrong, that's the one, because I think Ethereals might well be a playable race. Anyway, prediction number 6. The systems that we will be keeping, the features of the actual game, apart from faction ships. Mythic Plus will be back in a big, big way. Blizzard obviously love Mythic Plus. It's clear that the player base really love Mythic Plus. The Mythic Dungeon Invitationals got huge viewerships on Twitch. People get really into it. I enjoy watching it. It's a fantastic thing. And Blizzard are clearly putting a lot of money and thought and eggs into that basket. That Mythic Plus Invitational basket, there are so many eggs in that basket right now. You couldn't lift it. You need a friend to lift that basket. It's so full of eggs. And not little eggs, like big ostrich-sized eggs. Those are the kind of eggs that Blizzard are putting in that basket right now. So we're going to see Mythic Plus back, which I'll be well happy about. Mythic Plus is a massive win for Legion, in my opinion. I love it. There have been times when I've completely bopped it because there's been one little bit of loot that I've been after. But I'm always playing it for one reason or another. And it's made me a better player, genuinely, than just raiding all the time. So I appreciate Mythic Plus. I think it's brilliant. And I think we're going to see more dungeons in the new expansion than you'd expect as a result, at launch and throughout the expansion. Because I think Blizzard know that dungeons are a massive thing for Mythic Plus. Obviously, you need the places to do the Mythic Plus. And I think they also know that dungeons that are introduced later on in the expansion aren't as popular for Mythic Plus as ones that are there from the start. So I think we'll see more dungeons right from the very start of the expansion, and they will be designed with Mythic Plus in mind more than the current batch as well, you know. So I think we'll see Mythic Plus back. I think we'll see World Quests back in much the same form. I wouldn't be surprised to see them change very, very little. Perhaps you could have World Quests that are literally in the middle of the sea that you get to on your faction ships. So there are like world quests, which, you know how you have like the elite mobs that you have to kill now, sort of on land masses? Detach them from land masses. Have huge sea monsters that you all have to turn up on different faction ships from different servers and fight all at once, whether in the sea or from your ship. Maybe people can use cannons on them and stuff as well. Or have other faction ships instead of PvP towers that you go along and literally raid and swing onto with ropes and take over. Or have like randomly generated little islands just full of mobs that you just turn up at. These uncharted islands that can change all the time. They just pop up for world quests and you go along and you clear them and you just get some loot, and Jaina's head pops up in a little box going, "Hero, we found this new island which has been randomly generated. Go and check that one of the 5 not pillars of creation aren't on there, will you?" And we're like, yeah, and we kill everything, and we brilliant. Be amazing. You tell me that shit wouldn't be cool? That is so cool. And those would be world quests that I am well up for. And obviously they'd be on the main land masses as part of the expansion as well. Oh, I love that idea. That would make me love World Quest. Big sea monsters we have to go and fight. How cool would that be? I think another thing we're going to see make a comeback as part of Prediction 6 here is Legendaries. I know you don't want to hear this, guys, but Blizzard like Legendaries. I like Legendaries. I think Legendaries work. And there are things that I don't think work about Legendaries, and there are things that Blizzard don't think work about Legendaries, and which they have apologised for, and which they said they would change if they had another go. They're going to get another go. And I think actually the way the system is now with the drop rates, and if they had Legendaries that were all throughput or were all sort of situational, I think the fact that they've mixed those two types of Legendary together is what has caused the problem, as well as the drop rate issue as well. And I think if they started from scratch, which they would with the new expansion, I think they would iron out those problems to a certain degree. The thing I hate more than Legendaries, I want to see a complete chucking away of, is Titan Forging and the extent of Titan Forging. Titan Forging's okay in principle, but it just needs to be reined in a little bit. That's all. In principle, it could work, but I think we're going to see Legendaries back again in a big way. The artifact system. Now, this is something we made a video on as well. Obviously, we are losing our artifact weapons in the next expansion. That's been stated a year ago in the developer Q&A. We are not taking our artifacts with us. We are taking their appearances for transmog, but the artifacts themselves will be disappearing. And I think it will be quite likely that they'll be disappearing either in the Sylithus Mini-Raid, which I'm predicting, or in the Naga Invasion pre-patch event, which I'm also predicting, neither of which are guaranteed to happen, but both of which I'm putting my money on. And this is set in stone now. This is my prediction. So however we lose them, I think the system works. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but I have found a real connection to my character, which I wasn't expecting, by having the same weapon that I've carried with me throughout the expansion. And everything I do in game helps level that weapon up and progress that weapon, and that is my progression system after I've hit max level. I've actually found it incredibly satisfying. I found getting new skins for it and the different things I have to do to get those skins. Like I had to win 10 rated battlegrounds to get the skin I wanted. I had to get a certain level of prestige for some other things. I had to do archaeology to get one of the skins that I really wanted. I had to do all these things, and I enjoyed them because I had a real purpose. And it was a mainstream purpose that I had. I was getting appearances for my weapon. People love skins, man. It's something we can get to in a second as well. So, will it be another artifact weapon? Or will it be something else? The system's going to stay. I'm certain about that. I think Blizzard have pretty much kind of said that as well. They've said that they really like the system. Will it be another weapon? I hope so. I hope that Blizzard aren't... I hope they don't cop out. I hope they don't go, oh, people won't like it if we do another weapon. We suggested designing and crafting your own weapon out of elements and kind of maybe naming it. I'm from an RP server, so that would be fine. We have very strict naming rules, but I appreciate other servers aren't quite so strict, so maybe naming your own weapon would be a major problem. I get that. But the idea that you have this weapon that you have forged yourself, and it starts off as like a bit of metal stuck on a stick, and then you progress it like you did your artifact, and you turn it into a legendary weapon. It's like, it's one thing having the Ashbringer, but it's another thing to create a weapon as awesome and as legendary and as fabled as the Ashbringer. That weapon is famous because of you now. You made it out of nothing, and you did amazing things with it. You cleared the Naga off of Kul'tiras or Zandalar, and you defeated Queen Azshara, and then later on N'Zoth with this weapon. And that's why that weapon is legendary, is because of you. I think that's an awesome idea. I'm not sure Blizzard will have the guts to do another weapon. I'm thinking maybe a trinket. I'm thinking that maybe the artifact system will move to a trinket that we carry with us throughout the expansion, and that we level up in the same way. It works as a talent tree, an extra talent tree, just like the artifact system does at the moment. But there are certain procs that we can choose from it, and maybe there's only one that we can choose. Maybe we can change that using more artifact power or things like that. I think that could work. I'd be disappointed at the lack of visual feedback that you get from having a trinket that you leveled up and carried around with you. But anyway, either way, I think the artifact system will be staying. Which leads us to prediction number 7. More cosmetic rewards. Because another thing that I think will be staying is something like the Mage Tower. The Mage Tower is brilliant. It's absolutely awesome. It's like a one-person raid with a really difficult boss, depending on which one you do, which you can outgear. Okay, maybe change that. But the idea that you have this challenge that you are defeating for a really awesome skin. People got so excited because it was an artifact skin you could get. And don't be fooled into thinking people would have been as excited about it if there wasn't an artifact skin on offer. If it was just the challenge and you got some gold or some artifact power or even a cool item, people would not have been that excited. Mage Tower would not have been the first building that got built on the Broken Shore in days when the Broken Shore first released if it wasn't for that artifact skin. People love transmog skins. I think this is something that Blizzard are very slowly waking up to. There's been a lot more kind of pure transmog items available in Legion compared to other expansions, and they drop just as rewards for things. But I'd like to see that taken further, and I think Mage Tower and the artifact weapons are a really great example of that. I have done all sorts of things to try and get different skins for my artifact, and I would do the same for just basic transmog stuff if I thought it was really cool. The only reason I really still PvP is to try and get the elite PvP sets, because they are really, really cool transmogs. They are awesome. Mounts are brilliant rewards, but transmog and weapon appearances are even better a lot of the time, in my personal opinion. And I will work and I will do things that I wouldn't usually do in game in an effort to get those skins. And I think we will see more. We will see more things like the Mage Tower Challenge, which reward artifact skins or, weapon skins and transmog skins. And I think we will see more of them in general in the game as a genuine reward. As in, I think we will see transmog items drop from raid bosses and world bosses and dungeon bosses. I think this will be like a genuine form of reward in the game. Yes, you have items that make you more powerful as well. Those will still drop. But I think people now view transmog items and skins as a genuine reward in itself. And they will play through content to get those rewards. And that can be a major fix for Blizzard, actually, because one of the main problems they have at the moment is how do we get people to carry on playing this content? We have to give them rewards. And the only rewards you can really give that mean anything at the moment are rewards that make you more powerful, which is where you have this incredible power creep happening in Legion, where we have to keep rewarding people for running these Mythic Plus dungeons, for example, so people are just getting more and more powerful. People would run content for purely transmoggable rewards if they were good and if they were unique and if they were badass. People would do that, Blizzard. People would play that content continuously for those other non-power giving rewards. I think you know that, and I think we're going to see more of that in the next expansion. That is prediction number 7, which unfortunately brings us to prediction number 8. This is not a prediction I like giving, but it is linked to those last predictions. And it is, alas, something I think we're going to see. Prediction number 8 is loot boxes. Now, Blizzard are far from the first company to introduce loot boxes into their games. In Overwatch, now Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone is pretty much entirely based around that premise as well. And obviously there have been other games and companies that have done that before. Blizzard have really nailed it in a way that I don't think any games company have. And they've made it acceptable in a way that I'm not sure many other games companies have managed. And they are awesome loot boxes in Overwatch with their cosmetic rewards, and I like them a lot, and I like getting them, and I have bought some. They have completely nailed me with their cynical microtransaction schemes. Nothing more satisfying than opening a pack of cards in Hearthstone. I don't play any Heroes of the Storm, but I imagine the graphics and the sounds and the feedback that you get from opening loot boxes and that is pretty special as well. And I cannot believe that something that popular and that well done and that makes that much money is not going to find its way into World of Warcraft. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, that won't fit. That doesn't work in an MMORPG. It's one thing in a hero-based shooter game, but not in this rich game with all these different things going on. You really think they're not going to make that money? In some form or another, we will see loot boxes in World of Warcraft in the next expansion. Randomized gear boxes that it is possible to buy somehow with real money, which of course means that they are possible to buy with gold as well, because there's no such thing as only real money on the Blizzard store anymore, because you can pay for everything with gold, which I think Blizzard will see as giving them license to kind of do whatever they want. And they're kind of right, but it is also kind of disappointing. I don't know, maybe they'll convince me. Maybe I'll think that the new Naga invasion loot boxes are the best thing ever. So let's finish off with a nice prediction, which doesn't make me feel so sad. Prediction number 9 for the next expansion. My final prediction, in fact, old world scaling. Now, the invasions that we saw before Legion were better than anything that happened in the whole of Warlords of Draenor, in my opinion. Apart from maybe the leveling, which was fun. But the actual demon invasions that happened in the pre-patch all around the old world were so much fun. Huge amounts of people running around the old world, beating demons, having an awesome time, getting some cool loot, leveling up their characters. Awesome. Awesome. And I think that will happen again in the pre-patch for Naga invasions. And my prediction is that it will be Naga invasions coming out of the sea that we will have to repel. And there will be cannons and shit. And it will be awesome. I think that will then carry on. I think Naga invasions are a thing that could happen throughout the world, all throughout the expansion, on various coastal areas of the old world. And I think that scaling will be a part of that. But I think it will go further than that. I think old world scaling might find its way into the whole of the world. So if you are starting a new character from scratch, within reason, maybe within expansions, so all vanilla content scales to your item level below item level 60, or up to item level 60, or Burning Crusade content scales between 60 and 70, Wrath content scales between 70 and 80, etc., etc. And I think we'll see that rolled out to the entire old world. I think that'll just be a thing. I think the technology is there. I think there's a will from Blizzard to make that happen. There's certainly a will from the player base as well. I think that's definitely going to happen. So count on that. Those are my predictions. Just as a summary. Number 1, Jaina, Goody, major force next expansion. Number 2, the South Seas expansion, which will feature Zandalar and Kul'tiras as kind of starting areas for the Horde and Alliance, when we're funneled into the same areas a little bit later on. Like in Wrath, like in Warlords of Draenor. We will have a story that involves Naga invasions, Queen Azshara being the big baddie that sort of oversees everything until about 2/3 of the way through the expansion, where N'Zoth will take over and the entire setting will change, maybe to an underwater little section, sort of ending there in our kind of Argus equivalent. Who knows? New playable race. No, I'd like Naga. I'd like Tuskar. I think if there were one, it would probably be Ethereals. But my prediction for that is sub-races and the customization involved there, which will obviously see new models finally for Worgen and Goblins as well. Faction ships like the Vindikar, which will see a new major focus on faction warfare. We'll be keeping Mythic Plus in a big way, World Quest in a big way, Mage Tower type things, Legendaries will be back, the artifact system may be transferred to a trinket kind of system, who knows, and more focus on cosmetic rewards, skins for your weapons, transmog sets that don't give you any extra power, but are a reward in their own right from bosses, world bosses, missioning, raids, dungeons, whatever. And unfortunately, the introduction of loot boxes as well. Those are my predictions, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure you will. Thank you for joining me today. I've really enjoyed it, even if you haven't. If you did enjoy it, don't thank me. Don't thank Evitel. She's done nothing. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to help this channel happen. You guys really are the best. Thank you. You're just awesome. I don't know what else I can say, really. If you didn't enjoy it, though, downvote the shit out of it. And remember, my name is Pyromancer. No, my name is Taliesin. From me, Taliesin, and Evitel, until the weekly reset in a couple of days. Cheerio.